So I'm starting recording. Hello, and welcome to this session, Figma for UX writers. Everybody can hear me fine, right? Perfect. And today we are going to cover the basics of Figma. I want you to prepare questions while I'm talking because it's more of an interactive session where you just ask how to use it and I will explain. I want to do it with one of the exercises that we had during the course. So I felt like the MEDI 404 page could be a good idea. So if you have it, you can just pull it. If you have access to it, just pull it. And if one of you could share it here in the chat, we could work on that. Like what we're going to do is to take one screen and design it using Figma. And then it will just show you how to take one of the exercises from the UX Writing Academy and make it on Figma. So who want to volunteer? Ali?
Sorry, which screen did you say, Yuval?
So I thought that a good idea would be the 404 page by the Medi app.
Media? Yeah, let me just grab it up. It's in Miro, does that matter?
No, it's even better because we have like the sketch on Miro and now we're going to create it on Figma.
Sure, I'll just share it now.
And hopefully we'll do a good job with that. All right.
All right, it's just in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Oh, I requested access. I need you to give me permission to go inside. Suzanne, hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Sydney as well.
Request access.
I changed my
Oh, it doesn't work for some reason.
I reduced my no, I should still have one license.
There is another sharing that you can do on Miro where I can just watch it without editing it, just like the regular share.
Okay.
Or just give anyone permission to watch it, something like that.
It's saying anyone with the invite link can edit.
Yeah, something like that. Just so you have some kind of a URL that you can share that will give me access to this file.
That one worked. I posted a second one in the link.
Okay, perfect. I'm in. All right. Okay. So what is your final version? See many versions here. What will be the one that you would like to work on today? That you would like us to recreate on Figma?
Version 2?
This one.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So let me just take a screenshot. And I'm going into Figma. So I really want to encourage you to download Figma and to have the desktop version of it and not the web version of it because it works better. And yeah, so I'm using right now Figma for Mac. You have it also for PC. let me tell you a little bit about the history. So we had a renaissance in design tools a few years ago. To be honest, I wrote about it in 2017. Let me share with you the article. And there you go. So I created this article in 2017 because I was doing the transition from graphic design to UX design. I knew how to use Photoshop. Photoshop was not optimized to create screens, to create user interface. But many people still were using Photoshop to create user interface. So that was weird because you had to slice it up, send PNG files to developers. They would have to use HTML, CSS to code it. And it was really ugly. You know, you've seen a lot of pages on the internet that were built like that. And then somewhere in 2015, I'd say, came another tool. The name of that tool is Sketch. And okay, right before Sketch, we had InVision. So let me explain a little bit more. InVision came, I guess, 2013, something like that, and it helped you to take your Photoshop stuff and screens, which were heavy, and it was really difficult to design them, and you had to create like 10 different files to 10 different screens. It was disaster. And what InVision allowed you to do is to take all of your 10 screens on Photoshop, export them to PNG, and then you could import them to InVision, and then you could build those cool interactive prototypes where you can press one PNG file and it just show the next PNG file, and it creates some kind of interactivity that was new. It was new back then because Photoshop was optimized for print, not for digital. But InVision created some kind of interactivity in Photoshop. So that was pretty cool. And then Sketch came. And Sketch, and let's see if I still have access to Sketch. I don't use it anymore. I think I deleted it as well. Signe is talking about PowerPoint, of course. Yes, I see that. But if you wanted to hand out your design to developers that would actually put the code in it, you had to export it from PNG, and that was working really poorly. And yeah, PowerPoint is also one way to do it. So, okay, so this is Sketch. Sketch, to be honest, I love Sketch. This is one of my favorite tools. Really cool. You could build like shapes and vectors. It looks similar to Figma because it is like Figma. And you can create like many different artboards, you know, and duplicate them, and voila, you had like, and you had like this limitless artboard that you can create many different screens, and this was a game changer. And there was one problem. So first of all, Sketch cost $99, and it worked only on Mac. You couldn't use it on PC, and it wasn't collaborative. It was just like, you know, just regular. And what was cool is that you could export your Sketch file into InVision seamlessly. So you had something called Craft plugin. So you press the button and then you could see all of your screens in a click of a button on InVision. That was like, whoa, okay. So new stuff, that was pretty cool. And then you could use Sketch and InVision together. And when you wanted to send it to developers, you synced your Sketch Figma with another tool named Zeppelin. So with a click of a button, you sent it to Zeppelin. And then the developers were connected to Zeppelin, and your team was connected to InVision. The actual design were on Sketch. And then it was like, that was the process. Like, I'm designing it on Sketch. Okay, I need to change it right now because someone wrote a comment on it on InVision. So I change it, I sync it back to InVision, and we do this circle. And when it's ready, I send it to developers. I still have Zeppelin on my computer as well. It's like history now, but I still have it. No, I don't have it anymore. Sorry. But okay, so Holly is asking about Sketch. I'm going to talk more about it afterwards. A lot of companies are still using Sketch. Of course, Sketch is a great tool. I love it. But most people are doing the transition to Figma these days. I can send you a report that is talking about how most of the industry is just moving to Figma. And the main reason for it is because Figma took InVision, Zeppelin, and Sketch and Google Docs basically and put it in the same tool. Okay, so even if it's not the best design tool, even if it's not the best prototyping tool like InVision, or even if it's not the best handout tool to developers like Zeppelin, all of the product team coexist inside of Figma, and that creates a huge benefit for Figma. Probably that's the reason people doing the transition to it. And in addition to that, you have another thing that you didn't have in Sketch until like 6 months ago, named, which is the collaboration. Okay, so Sketch teams, this is how they call it now, but InVision from day one had like the collaboration, which is means that me, Clevin, Ali, and Holly can join the same file, design it, comment on top of it, and work seamlessly together. This is really great. In addition, also Figma is really great because Figma lives on the cloud. So when I use Sketch, and maybe you have Sketch Cloud now, you have something like that. But when I use Sketch, I had to upload it to a Google Drive. We have like the master sketch, and then we had to duplicate it, design in it, merge it back with the original. There is another tool named Abstract, which is like Git only for Sketch, yada, yada, yada. But basically, you had to do version control, which was terrible. And in Figma, you have also version control inside of the tool, which is also great. And that's about it. So everything is there. And also it's a great tool to work with writers and designers together. And you can just jump into the design file instead of, duplicating it and downloading it and all of those. And you can just change the text, and using text tools in Figma is not that hard, and any UX writer can actually do it. And it helps us writers to design inside of the design tool. So it's we're in a point right now where it's really great for UX writers to use Figma. That's why we talk about Figma and not about Sketch. But in the same time, I would say that most of the basics that we're going to cover today are going to be relevant for Sketch as well. So it's almost the same tool. So back in 2017, and I really recommend you to check out this historian piece I wrote back in 2017, because we had a huge, fight. We had the design tools fight. We had a discussion going on in the community, like who's going to win, Figma, Sketch. Adobe decided they're going to have their own version of Sketch, so they developed Adobe XD. And they completely broke the market because they said, okay, it's not going to cost. Okay, so originally it costed money, and then InVision raised $100 million, and they said, we're going to invent also a design tool named InVision Studio. So we had a time in 2017 when we had Sketch, Figma, InVision Studio, Adobe XD. We didn't know who was going to win, but InVision Studio said, hey, you can use our tool for free. And that's why Adobe XD was also free. And now because of this, Figma is also free, but they're going to raise their prices really, really soon, unfortunately for all of us. But that's where we are today. We have a design tool. The name is Figma. It's free. Everyone can use it. And it's like industry standard. So that's why we cover Figma today. And that's the short history lesson that we have right now about like how we got here. Perfect. Now, let me share my screen. And this is Figma. No, this is Sketch basically because I opened Sketch. So I don't want to save it. That's the bummer with Sketch. You have to like save the files. I don't want to save them. I want it automatically upload it to the cloud. And that's what exactly is happening with Figma. You can also use Figma in your browser, which is also great. And because Sketch was working only on MacBook and not PC, Figma won because many people like to design with PC. Not everyone have computers by Apple, even though many designers have, because this is kind of a status, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so everyone can see my screen, right? Perfect. So what we have here is Figma. Let me just explain about the specs first. So in the left, we have the panel for all of the frames and screens. So basically in Figma, we call screens frames. So if you want to create a new screen, you create a new frame. So on the left, we have a spec with all of our frames. And if I'll go to, for example, we designed the landing page for the UX Writing Academy, and this is how it looks like. So here on the left, you have all of the different frames. On top of that, you have the different pages. So in the same design file, you can have pages. Let's say that we work right now on the 404 page of Medi. So we can say that page number 1, we can rename it. And let's say that this one is by Ali. And maybe afterwards, we will create another page by Clevin. Okay. So I can just go from one page to another and have like completely different designs. Let's say that we're building a website right now or a product. So we have the admin panel in one page, and then we have the user panel on the other page. And then we can have the marketing pages in another page. So we could manage our own project in the same design file, and the pages are working as some kind of a folders. Inside of those folders, we can create many different screens. Perfect. And the screens are called frames. That's about this side. We have also the assets. Right now, we don't have any assets, but basically, we're going to go through it later. But every design project might have assets that are reusable, so we could use them afterwards. And then we could just drag and drop them from the assets panel, which is useful. Okay, that's about the left step. Do we have any question about that for now? Perfect. If we go here, you could see all of the texts and rectangles and all of the different components right here. Okay. That's about, you can have pictures, masks, text, all of those. Okay. That's about that. Okay. On the right side, we have 3 parts for this panel. We have the design panel, which is what we're going to use when working on the project. And let me choose one component. It's going to look differently, depends on what you're hovering on right now. You have different components in the screen. It can be a text, it can be a shape, it can be a picture, and this side is going to look different, depends on what you're hovering right now. So if we're going to press the text, for example, you'll have an option to edit the text, to bring it to align it to the left, to the center, to create more spaces, and like that, to change the font if you want, okay? And you can change the opacity to make it transparent. Most often we don't do transparent text in UI, but you can do that in your design file. You can change the color. You can add a stroke if you want. So let's make red stroke. And then you can make this stroke wider. Okay. I don't see the use in it right now, but you can do that. And everything is editable here. Okay, and it's endless. So we're not going to go through every piece of editable piece over here, but you can edit the stroke, edit the fill, and add an effect like a very useful effect is drop shadow. So it's very common to see a drop shadow effect, like here, or when you have some kind of a picture, and you can have also a drop shadow effect, which I can see because it's a masked picture. So let's choose it like that, and voila, you can have a drop shadow effect, and modify it basically. So you can edit also the effects. Okay, that's about the right panel. There's so many things you can do here. So many things. You can change the angle of the picture. You can make it rounded. You can make round shapes, and so on. And I'm not going to elaborate on that right now more. We're going to do something together afterwards. And another thing you can do is to export. So basically you can export a frame as a PNG, or you can export it as a PDF or a JPEG, and then send it to your peers. This is also something you can do. I use the export when I create graphics. So all of the graphics for the Writers in Tech podcast are going through Figma. So when I upload it to my website, I just take these two frames and press export to layers, and then I can have a folder with all of these graphics. So this is why to use it. And another thing you have here on the panel is the prototype. So basically, remember I told you that Photoshop allowed you to that InVision allowed you to connect two different Photoshop files and to create some kind of interactive prototype. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is very simple. I'm going to create a new frame. In order to create a new frame, so we have this menu on top, and this is the menu that helps us to create more, I'd say more, everything that we need on that screen, like frames or rectangles, pictures, text, and so on, and so on. I want you to remember, and this is really important, that Holly, I will explain what is a mask, don't worry. And if I don't explain, so ask again, but it's more advanced. But basically, all of the products and the web interfaces are pretty basic. If you look on every screen out there, you'd see that it's built from pictures that might have some graphics, and shapes. Those could be like complicated shapes like illustrations, or simple shapes like rectangles, and text. That's about it. That's how the web is built. Let's go to like Ali, give me a name of a website that you like. Any website at all?
ASOS.
ASOS, perfect. So let's go to ASOS, and we'll see. Oh, it's in Hebrew.
ASOS.
Okay, okay, even better. Okay, so what we have here is a graphic that someone made on Photoshop maybe. And we have text here, and we have shapes, that's it. So we have here some kind of a rectangle that is changing while I'm hovering it. This is the menu is another rectangle. Here we have another shape, which is a circle, but it's a shape. And this is interesting. I don't know, for me it was mind-blowing to understand that the web is only rectangles, pictures inside of rectangles, shapes, and text. That's it. Not more than that. And it's really easy to create them using Figma. And so even if we have some kind of icon over there, this icon is built from shapes, which is a rectangle and another, which is a circle and another half circle. And when it comes to icons, by the way, I like to take them from other resources. So you don't have to create those icons even, you can just take them for other resources. And then it's like Lego bricks. You can just build your own Figma design using icons from something like Flat Icon, which is my favorite tool. Most of the graphics in the UX Writing Academy is like those cute icons that you can see every week when you join the classes, and you can just look for icons here if you want like a user icon, like on ASOS. You can just take it from here and then take it as a CSV file, no, sorry, not CSV, SVG file or a PNG file, and just paste it into Figma, and then use it. It's simple as that. And so, yeah, so this is what I want to say about the web. And when you understand that, it makes a lot of sense to make it so simple. You have here the option to create ellipse or rectangle. To add pictures, you just drag and drop them here. And text tools, and that's it. And using those 4 elements, we can create basically every wireframe for every screen that we can find. And using another graphic design tool, we can import the graphics and put them inside of our wireframes. And then really easily we can create every screen that is out there. And most of the websites even don't have graphics, they just use pictures. So you can just drag those pictures. It's really simple. And that's about it. So I started talking about the prototype part. So how can we use it like in Vision? So first thing, we use this tool to create a frame. You can use also a shortcut, which is pressing F for frame, and then you can create a frame. When I press F, the spec from the right changes because it changes every time I do anything on the screen. And you can actually take a frame that is shaped like iPhone or a desktop if you're doing a desktop version of something, or a tablet, or even Apple Watch, or social media, because they're so mindful for the fact that people are doing also graphics in their UI design tools that you can even use like a Twitter post template. So just for fun, let's use the desktop version. And now we have it. And we press Command R or Control R if you're on PC to rename it. So let's call it screen 1. And we can duplicate it. So if you want to duplicate it, we can just, first of all, of course, Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V. What I like to do when I duplicate elements on Figma, I just press Alt and drag them. It's very important because I use it all the time. So I press Screen and I press Alt and I drag it. Okay. And now automatically Figma changed from screen 1 to screen 2. And I think this is a pretty smart way to handle your design files. Like it's helping me with my naming conventions. So now I want to create some kind of a button. So I want to create a rectangle. What's a button? Which kind of components are part of a button in a UI? Suzanne, like we talked about the different shapes that we have in UI. So what buttons include? So if I'm not clear in because I'm moving too fast or being so just let me know. But basically, remember I told you that all of the web is built on like rectangles and text and the shapes. So a button is just a rectangle or a rounded rectangle with text in it. So this is what we're going to do. So now we're going to create a button. And in order to do that, we're going to, first of all, press R to create a rectangle. And now we're going to create our first button. Okay. And and we can use this spec here from the right to align it to the center because I want this button to be aligned to the center. You can also use Alt H and Alt V to do it with shortcuts. This is what I do because I use this shortcut a lot to align objects to a screen and also align them to each other. I'm going to elaborate more on that afterwards. And basically we have a rectangle. Now I want to have a text on top of that button. So I press T to work with the text tool. Okay, it's simple as that, T for text. And I write click me. Not the best copy, but that's a photocopy. So let's make it a bit larger. So I'm going to the spec on the right, and I will make it like 30. Okay. Now you can edit the text like you would edit it on Google Docs. So you can say, I want it to be bold. So let's do Command B or Control B to make it bold. Or I want it to be italic. So I will be doing Command I to make it italic. But I don't like my buttons italic, so I will cancel that. And now I have another problem because this text is not aligned to the button. So in order to do that, I need to choose both of them and align them to each other. It's really important. You can just choose one of them and just play by ear, which I don't like to do because I might be wrong. So I do Command Z and I just press both of them. I press the click me one and the rectangle. In order to choose both of them, I need to press Command. And now I chose both of them. And now I'm going to use this panel here on the right to align them to each other. So I'm going to use the align horizontal centers and then to align vertical centers. Now they align to each other. Okay, that's our button. Am I moving too quickly here? Perfect. And I want to group them together because I want this component to move seamlessly together and not like as a rectangle and a text. So I'm going to pick both of them again. I press Command and then Command Shift to choose both of them. Now I choose both of them. And I will press Command G or Control G to group them together. So now they're grouped, Command G. And now when I press them, they're moving together seamlessly, which is really important. But the naming convention here on the left is group 8, and I don't like this name. Does someone remember what is the shortcut for renaming something? Holly?
Control R.
Yes, you got it. So now I'm going to press Control R, and I'm going to, we can see it's editable here on the left. Shortcuts are extremely important, by the way. This is what makes your work 15 minutes and not 3 hours. This is like really important. So I'm going to call it button 1. Perfect. And now we have a button that says click me, and I'm not sure that we will be able to recreate the Medi app, but I am going to go through the basics so everyone would know exactly how to create basic stuff using Figma after this session. So we have this button that says click me, but now I want to choose only, I want to design it. I want to create blue background. Blue, I don't want it to be gray. So I can do two things. I can press Command or Control and then press the component that I want to choose. And then it will choose it automatically. And then I can change the color. Or I can just double click. I don't like to double click because this double click happens hundreds of times in 1 hour, and I prefer to press Command and then choose it, and then I can change the color really quickly. Okay, let's choose the color blue. But now we have a huge accessibility issue. Okay, and we have rules of accessibility where we can't have dark text on top of dark colors, and so we would like to make the text white. So we're going to use a tool named the Eyedropper tool. In order to use that, we're going to press the letter I. Okay? And okay. Signe, I want you to tell me how to choose this text right now. Because when I press it, it's grouped. So how can I choose only the text and change the color of the text? We have two options.
I was going to say double click, but you hate that.
I don't like the double click, but we can do that. That's the right answer. Okay. Ali, do you remember the other way to do that?
If you go to the sidebar, click on the click me, the layer.
Yes, that's another option. That's the third option. I would never use that because we might have like hundreds of components on the left and we don't want to like manually pick them. Okay.
Oh, T.
What's that?
Is it the T shortcut or no?
No, the T shortcut is to create text from scratch. If I want to choose a component that I'm hovering right now, I just press, if I'm on Mac, I press Command and then click. So I choose it. And if I'm in PC, I choose, I do Control and then click. Okay. So I press Command, click, and then it saved me many clicks and many hours browsing through the left side. And now I need to use the eyedropper tool to choose the color white. Because I have white on the screen, I can just sample that. You can also build your own color palette here on the left and then pick from there. And how do I use the eyedropper tool, Helen? Do you remember? So the eyedropper tool, so I for I. Just press the letter I, and then you can just sample it. That's it. Okay. So that's about the button. Now I don't like the way this button looks because I like to have my buttons with rounded shapes. So I'm going to pick only the background, only the rectangle in the background, which is this one. And here you can have the option to change the rotation of it, but I don't care for it right now. And also the corner radius, this is how they call it, the corner radius. My favorite is 5. I think it's nice and rounded. All of our websites are 5, but you can make it go, you know, all the way to the right like that. You have buttons like that, that's okay. And you can make it also somewhere in the middle, you know, something like that, like 25. Okay, or you can make 0, and then you're not going to have rounded edges at all for your rectangles. And that's about it. So let's take the rounded corners. So now we have a screen with a button. Now I want to create a prototype where I press this button and the color changed from blue to red. Okay, and so we're going to build a simple prototype where the color changes. So we're going to press Control C, and then this is amazing part about Figma because when I press Control V right here, it automatically pastes it on the other screen. Another thing that you can do is just delete everything else and drag it and duplicate it. How do you drag and duplicate?
Alt.
Alt. So I'm going to press Alt. And now it's scattered all around the interface. But if I press Alt and Shift in the same time, it's going to make sure that it's aligned and nice. And okay, perfect. So now I'm going to change this color to red. Simple as that. And because we are writers, and we're going to make sure that we will help the user to understand what's going to happen in the next screen. So we're going to write, it's going to turn red. And let's make it smaller. Okay. Now I want to align them to each other. So I press both of them and align. Okay. Okay, perfect. Now we have okay. Now we have two different screens. We could create them on Photoshop, we could create them on XD, a lot of other screens, but we did it in Figma. And we can use the prototype spec to make them interactive. And how do you do that? So this circle, you can just draw a line from this one to every component on the other screens. And once you, okay, so I'm going to do it like that. You can just take it like that. Okay. So now I know that we have some kind of interactivity between those two. And we can edit it. So on click is going to navigate to this screen. And okay. And we can also edit how it's going to look like. We can open a link, we can make it like swap and scroll and just like PowerPoint effects of like different transitions. You can make them really, really smooth. You can have like prototype settings and all of those, but I'm not going to go into that. And this blue here means that this is the home page. So the first screen will always be like this blue rectangle here on the left. And when we create prototypes, logically, we have to create some kind of a closed loop. So I want to make sure that when I press this button, it's going to circle me back to the first screen. So we're not going to have a dead end. Okay. And so that's about it. So we have some kind of a basic prototype that we can click this button and it's going to move me to the next screen. And in order to make it work, I just press play here on the right. So let's give it a try. Okay, so I have this button. I click it and it's red. And I click it again and it's going back to the first screen. What you can do is to share a prototype. And I can share it here on the chat. You can check it out yourself. You can comment on it. You can play with it and see that it works. I can also share the Figma with you right now. So you could check this file yourself. We edit it. This is the Google Docs kind of behavior that we were talking about. And then you could play around with it as well. Right now you can view. I can change it. So if you look on my screen, you have another tool, which is the comment tool. This is exactly like you had in InVision. And you can just press the comment tool and say, I prefer, you can tag me also, Yuval, I prefer different type of red. Then I get it notified. Okay, share and comment. And then I would see this. I would see this comment. I see that there is a comment here, and then I will first of all be offended because that's what designers do when you give them critique, and then I will change it to another type of red. Okay, so you can comment on top of it. So that is it possible to filter comments by name? Levin is asking. That's a really good question. Let's check it out. So you have here filters. All comments only yours. So you can see only ones that you're part of.
So it wouldn't be possible in case there were like 200 comments on an entire document across screens, and there were like maybe 5 stakeholders trying to give their comments, like somebody from on-site, somebody from like a brand team, and somebody from like product, all, and a writer and a designer putting in comments together. Would it be possible to, for example, I choose Yuval and I just get his comments, and then I choose Helen and just get hers? Is that possible?
So Ellen will see hers, and you will see yours if you choose only yours.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see everyone at once, including those 5 stakeholders. Or you can filter it only to stuff that is relevant to you. Because if it's not relevant to you, you might not care because there is like trillions of more people on that document. And to be honest, I thought I'm going to cover more stuff because we don't have a lot of time. But let's do something like that. Now I want to do another thing, and I want to create it that it will look like some kind of a pop-up. Okay, so I'm going to create a rectangle that will be a little bit gray. That will be my background, and I want the pop-up to be white. So I'm going to take a rectangle, and that's the background. Remember, the web is only rectangle and different shapes. Okay, so it's a bit gray. Now I have a problem, and that problem is that it covers my design. So what should I know? What should I do? First thing you can do is just to drag it to the bottom, and then it would be in the background right now. But doing it manually is a disaster. So you can just press Command, and you have those curly brackets here in your keyboard. So Command, and you can just move it back and forth using the shortcuts. And that's about that. I want it to be in the background. Exactly. So yes, so that's about that. You can also, now I want to edit it without moving the background every time I'm moving it. So you can also lock the background layer so it wouldn't move anywhere. So you have here the lock thingy, and now I can't move this layer anymore. And if you press Command Shift L, it will also lock it. Okay, that's another shortcut that I like to use. Okay, so now it's locked. We have the background. Now I want to create the white pop-up. So another rectangle moving right here. I'm going to press Alt H, Alt V to align it to the center. I'm going to press Command curly brackets to move it to the bottom. And then I'm going to sample white color, pressing I to sample the white color. And now you barely can see it. That's because my background layer is also in the same color. So let's make it less white. Let's make it more gray, I'd say. Okay. And now we can all see it clearly. Okay. So we have this nice button right here and the pop-up. In addition to that, I want also to create some kind of I want to show you how to export your icons from flat icon to this screen, because I think it's really important when you create some kind of a mockup or prototype for your apps. It's already making them look 100% better when you add something like that. So let's go to flat icon, and I don't know. Let's do some click illustration. Okay, so you can just download it as PNG or SVG. It doesn't really matter. It matters a lot, but right now it doesn't really matter. And it takes a lot of time. Okay, so it's on my desktop right now. So you can just drag it into your Figma. I'm just dragging this file to my Figma, and it's there. Okay, and I'm going to pick this one and align them to each other. This one and that one. Oh, but that's not good. Perfect, we have something here. Something. It's not something that's beautiful, but it is what it is. And our prototype is not relevant anymore because this I'm red now is not relevant. So I'm just going to delete it and duplicate this screen and change it to red and say I am red now. Again, we need to align them to the center, just like that. 1, 2, ta-da. And if you'll go to the link of the prototype, you'll see that it's updated already. So the prototype is working in a way that it's already, 1 second, let's see. Oh, it's not going to work. It's going to work now because I deleted the last screen and I reconnected it. So now we have some kind of interactive experience of a pop-up. Then when you press it, it changes to red. And that's about it. I had to go really quickly, and there was a lot of topics to cover, and I feel like I haven't covered more than 20% of them. But what do you feel so far about using Figma? I know you don't feel ready to use Figma, but do you feel better using Figma right now?
Yes, it definitely feels more familiar. There's that feeling of only scratching the surface.
To be honest, I really believe that as writers, we don't need to go too deep into this platform. There is endless opportunities, endless possibilities, but jumping into the design file made by a designer, a product designer, and changing the text, I feel like right now you have everything you need in order to do that specifically, and not, to create the actual product design, because you don't have to do the actual product design. You need to do the content design. This is something else.
Yeah.
But I feel like you have the tools to do that.
Definitely.
And if you need another session to go a little bit more advanced, talk about masking, and maybe advanced prototyping, maybe I didn't talk about the spec for the developers, how to hand it to developers. I didn't talk too much about like how to modify the text in a way that, I don't know, if you need to shorten a sentence, how specifically those case studies, and we haven't recreated the Medi app like I was planned, but that's okay because we covered stuff that was useful.
Yuval, I'd also be curious to know what's best practice there if you've got, like with our copy docs, like if there's various variations, how to easily plug in that copy? Or do you have to replicate every screen and do the different variations?
For your copy docs. So basically, what you can do is just to put in your copy docs a link to your Figma file, and then it will update already. So every time you update your Figma file and your copy docs, so it will be relevant. And in addition, if you do your copy docs using Notion, so you can integrate your Figma with your Notion file, and then it will automatically update it. So you wouldn't have to take like screenshots every time or something like that. So let's move to the other link. So because we have another meeting right now, right? So let's close this room. I need to close it because of the recordings and everything. And let's meet on the other side. And over there, we're going to talk about the projects. So see you soon.
Thanks.